Hello and welcome to this week's Man of Biscuit. I am RJ Belaski, and with me again this week is Jacob Gamble. How you doing, Jacob?
Going on, man.
All right. Hey, so just real quick to start off here, we are working on some new formats, new ideas for the show. So this week is going to see a couple of trial runs for that. Going to try and keep things shorter, a little bit more to the point, and go from there. So with all that in mind, let's get right into it with Avengers. I know you saw it, Jacob, and I think you enjoyed it.
Oh, yes, I did.
What did you enjoy about it?
I honestly like my favorite part of that movie was honestly the team-oriented aspect of it.
Okay.
The using of Captain America's shield by every one of the Avengers. The in combination shield and Thor's hammer. Stuff that actually looks like they worked it out, you know. The
Well, what that reminds me of actually is the games that were on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox, the Marvel. There was originally there was an X-Men game, and then the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, I think they
Yep.
were called. And yeah, whenever you brought a team out, they all had team attacks, and that was my first thought. I'm like, oh yeah, yep, those are the team attacks from Ultimate. And yeah, you're right. It's a way to do an ensemble movie. So
Oh,
I'm with you on that. I think for me, the thing that I really enjoyed about it was the way they sort of played with the group humor that Joss Whedon is fantastic at. I mean, that really was
see,
the whole exchange about everybody trying to lift Thor's hammer. That was as Whedon-esque as it gets. I really love that, and the rest of the movie, I mean, more or less speaks for itself. We don't want to dive into spoiler territory, but action, the way they focused on teamwork in terms of the action shot, storytelling, that sort of thing. Yeah, definitely A plus. If it weren't for Daredevil, I would say it's my favorite Marvel thing so far. But Daredevil's still on top.
I still haven't finished it, so right
Yeah.
this second it is on top for me. The like I said, the team aspect of it, the play back and forth. Honestly, I made a Facebook post immediately afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Was directed specifically at Fox Studios, as far as this is how a team-oriented movie should be done.
Well,
As
that's a whole other thing altogether. I mean, because yes, it galls me that the X-Men are in the hands of Fox, but the Bryan Singer movies have all been phenomenal, and that's
yes, yes, they
X
have,
one,
but they
X
don't
two, yeah.
have that team cohesion. Like ultimately, in the comic books, you see them, practicing regularly in the danger room, working together, things like that, and you don't get that in any of the Fox movies. At least not to the extent that it played out in the Avengers. With
I,
that,
I s- I suppose maybe I don't know. The most recent one from last year. Was it Future Past? I
it
can't. Yeah,
is
Days of
fast.
Future Past. Yeah, I mean that they managed to bring in not just an X-Men team, but an X-Men team from two distinct time periods. So I think there's something to be said for that. And
There's something to
yeah,
be.
I'm looking forward to Age of Apocalypse. It really is annoying that Marvel sold its birthright for a bowl of stew, so to speak. But at least with Bryan Singer at the helm, the X-Men movies have been good. So.
Indeed.
But yeah, as far as a how-to for a team superhero movie, Avengers unquestionably pulled it off. And you can also take notes if you're like playing party-based RPGs, that sort of thing. It's the way that everybody falls into a role and interacts, and yeah, absolutely.
And it's one more thing that I think that DC can pull a page from with the upcoming Justice League.
Yeah.
It's crossed. I hope that they do.
Well, if it actually happens, I think I don't know. I mean, that's I'm still under the impression that it's like, oh, the Avengers is huge. We have the Justice League. We got to make that a movie too, even though all of our movies have been moderate to terrible,
Yeah.
with the exception of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight
Yes.
movies. But and even some of those had their moments. But
Yes.
yeah, okay. So yeah, that's about all we have to say, or all I have to say. Anything else you want to add?
Go watch it.
Yeah,
If you haven't
definitely.
already,
Yeah.
if you have, go watch it again. I mean, I have three different groups of people that over the course of the next 2 weeks I'm going to go with. So it'll
Yeah.
be a total of 4 times watching it before it's even, yeah, before the dust is even settled on that movie.
Okay.
And they, yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking forward to every time around.
All
Uh,
right. So,
Video game Hall of
yeah.
Fame.
How about that? Well, you had a lot of things to say about this, so I guess I'll just let you take lead on it.
I honestly we ran through this because my initial reaction was a whole lot of rage in regards to this list. But as you pointed out, it's a national museum
Mm-hmm.
that really is not a national museum. These guys are a little group taking on the task of telling us or telling us what they feel is the iconic games of what amounts to what, three generations.
Sure.
And
Well, right off the top, then I mean, yeah, I will say that they're doing good work. It's something that needs to be done. We talked about it a few weeks ago in terms of cataloging and preserving gaming history. As gaming becomes more and more a part of society, preserving it and cataloging its past and is important, not just from a cultural perspective, but also, as they say, history is the greatest teacher. People who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, et cetera, et cetera. So as gaming continues to develop, that's important work. But all that being said, the Hall of Fame idea in general is just it's it's gotten them publicity, and I think that's about all it's good for. I it's just the whole list mentality that exists in web web culture, blogs, things that are
long
begging for
before what
clicks. Well, right, okay, so publication, yeah, it's the publication list mentality, and it's like we're going to have a top 10 list. Why? Not for any important reason or any kind of documentation. Lists encourage discussion and argument, and that is, well, I mean, it's for the reader, it's the illusion of engagement because there's not anything meaningful being discussed here. It's just a way to get people with opinions to speak up, and when people have opinions and want to speak up, they're clicking your link, or in days past they're buying the issue with the top 10 list or whatever. And for me, I mean, that's my general impression overall, but putting that aside and just saying, for the sake of argument, okay, there is a video game Hall of Fame. What doesn't deserve to be on this list? So, and let me bring up the list here. So,
Got it.
yeah, but
Ultimately, for those of you playing along at home, the list consists of Angry Birds, Doom, FIFA, Legend of Zelda, Minecraft, Oregon Trail, Pac-Man, Pokemon, Pong, The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Invaders, Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, and World of Warcraft.
all right, thank you. And that is, you can find that on the Polygon article, which we'll link in the show notes. But out of that list, what doesn't belong?
All right, so you and I had this conversation. Ultimately, I believe that Angry Birds doesn't belong.
Okay.
You completely disagree with me.
Well, that's where you tell me what doesn't belong, and we'll go from there.
I feel as though Angry Birds does not belong here. Ultimately, I can't get behind. You brought up a good point with Sonic and Super Mario. One of the two of them should go. And The Sims, I don't feel belong. The rest of these, for the most part, are at least acceptable entries for years down the road. However, I think this list lacks some icons
Well,
that
what's not
make
on the list that belongs there?
what's not on the list that belongs here. Let's start with anything from the Final Fantasy slash RPG genre. Um,
Okay.
specifically seven. I mean, that is you go with a RPG game. The first thing that anybody talks about is Final Fantasy VII. There's
Or the Garriott games. Wow. The Ultima series,
the Ultima
or
series.
yeah, it's I that's I think RPGs as a genre should be represented, absolutely. And I think that you can maybe thematically make the argument that they're pseudo represented by the Legend of Zelda series, although those are more of an adventure game, but it's still an adventure game set in a fantasy setting, and it's far more popular than even the most popular Final Fantasy could ever hope to be. And so, in that regard, I think you do have some representation there. Final Fantasy VII, I think, should probably be on the list for the same reason that The Sims is on the list, and that's because it is a game which brought a bigger audience to a niche genre, just as The Sims brought a larger, more mainstream ish audience to PC gaming and strategy gaming. Final Fantasy VII brought the more mainstream gaming audience into JRPGs. Now, whether or not that audience stayed over time is another issue, because JRPGs in general have been stuck in a rut for 15 years. But I think Final Fantasy VII should be on the list. I would have a hard time disagreeing with that. The fact that The Sims should not be on the list, I would take serious issue with, because, like I said, it's the game that brought a mainstream audience into PC gaming, into strategy, this sort of strategy simulation gaming. That's not to say everybody who played The Sims went on and played, Civilization. I think it was Civ 2 that was contemporary with something like that. But maybe Civ 3. Okay, so but it still brought a more general audience into PC gaming, and I think that alone, because nothing else did that on the level that The Sims did, it merits its spot on the list. And likewise, your other exception, I'll probably get a lot of flack from this from hardcore gamers, but Angry Birds absolutely belongs on the list. Angry Birds is emblematic of the mobile gaming expansion. People who were not looking at their phones as things on which to play games all of a sudden did, because of Angry Birds and some other major players, but none of them had the level of recognition or the success of Angry Birds, and frankly, most of them weren't even as fun.
I mean, arguably, arguably something. Okay, I mean, I made this argument earlier. The introduction into mobile gaming and something becoming huge was inevitable. Ultimately, you're taking something that was in the right place at the right time and making it and putting it on.
So why is Pac-Man on the list?
Huh?
So why is Pac-Man on the list?
Why is Pac-Man on the list? Pac-Man, oh man, really? You're asking that kind of question?
Because
Are we talking
because
Pac-Man
video gaming as a hobby was inevitable, and it was going to come along regardless. And this little game about a guy running around a maze eating pellets was in the right place at the right time. So why was Pac-Man on the list if Angry Birds shouldn't be?
Okay. Because honestly, what were you going to replace? What game in that genre, or what game in that console era would have replaced Pac-Man? I mean, ultimately, I can make the argument Candy Crush should be on here as opposed to Angry Birds. I can make the argument that Temple Run should be on here over Angry Birds.
Neither of those games are remotely as successful as Angry Birds.
No, there's not. But no, they're not. But they're things.
They're not as iconic of the mobile gaming platform as Angry Birds.
I agree, but it's
so if you're excluding Angry Birds, then you're saying that mobile gaming in general should be probably excluded from the list. But then you're the one who's the big proponent of the mobile gaming revolution.
Yeah, I believe that is the future for us as far as gamers go. I mean, that's one of those things that, man, you really hit this is a touchy subject for me. It really is. There's so much that could be said that I really could not put into a PG rating. So
okay.
we're going. I'm trying
to
keep this calm and easy. But Angry Birds was. I'm sorry, but the premise and everything else, it did so little. It really did. It was just in the right place at the right time. But you're right. Pac-Man was in the right place at the right time. But
and what's the premise of Pac-Man?
running
You,
around eating stuff
at
and
least, I mean, this you're going down this path where video games have to be defined by these strict rules of what constitutes a game and what doesn't. I mean, Angry Birds had a core gameplay mechanic, it had a scoring mechanism, and it had all of the elements of a satisfying game experience in a compact and easy to play and short play session experience. And it wasn't just in the right place at the right time; it was perfectly designed for its medium, and that's why it's successful.
it was very well designed for its medium. I don't know. I just maybe part of it is the maybe part of it is the newness for it. Ultimately, I don't think that an inaugural class should include a mobile game.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
that I mean, that's probably the one argument I guess you could come up with. If you look at halls of fame in other venues, particularly the most popular ones in Major League Sports, there is a mandatory waiting period after somebody retires before they can be inducted into the hall. So in that regard, yeah, if you're looking at the Hall of Fame, which again I don't, but that's my perspective on halls of fame in general. But if, for sake of argument, you are looking at halls of fame as monuments to history, then yeah, you should have a little bit more history than 4 or 5 years before you're inducted. I'll grant you that. I agree with that wholeheartedly in the context of this discussion. And by that sense, though, you would also have to exclude Minecraft. But I guess, I guess you could make the argument that it's sticking with the analogy of pro sports halls of fame. I think I may be misremembering this, but I think Wayne Gretzky went into the Hall of Fame like the year after he retired, and I think you could make a Gretzky-like exception for Minecraft because
but not a Gretzky like exception for Angry Birds.
probably not, because I'm not as big on the mobile gaming personally. I mean, I don't know. That's something I would need to think about and explore a little bit. But Minecraft has pretty much defined this generation of gaming. Kids that are of the age that we were when we were coming into gaming are now playing Minecraft, and so the memories that we have of the 16-bit era and the 8-bit era and the Ataris and the CD video game arcades with sticky quarters, they those are the memories that today's generation will have, the nostalgia, I should say, that today's generation will have for Minecraft. And I think it's fantastic because Minecraft is a brilliant game. The way it just puts things out there, has a set of rules for you to discover and explore, and you make your own game from there.
So,
Not all games should be like that, but all games can definitely benefit from that sort of design. And I think that yes, you get a Gretzky or a Jordan exception for Minecraft, in that regard.
all right. But okay. So you made the we talked about this earlier, and you said Sonic. You had Sonic versus Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I
you're
did go. I went back and forth on that, right? And you said, yeah, you think that, like I had said there that that it should be one or the other, and I do go back and forth. I mean, they're very similar, and I think that when you're creating something like this, you want a representative. But the flip side of that argument would be that the very competition between Mario and Sonic that is emblematic of the early 90s in video gaming is the single thing which is being represented by including both of them.
I can't agree. I can't disagree with that. That was the thing that I thought of initially, and then you were right. I mean, ultimately, I think that I mean one of them has to play little brother here, and
Right. Well, it's Sonic, no question. It's
yeah, well,
Sonic,
yeah, it's
yeah,
Sonic, no
historically,
question.
but yeah.
That's a given. But Yeah, I mean, the one that's playing little brother really shouldn't be vying for a spot against Big Brother.
Yeah, well, at least not a first ballot spot, right?
Yeah, not a first ballot spot.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
ultimately, Sonic, if this list gets cut in half for the sake of argument, and Mario Brothers makes it, Sonic doesn't, Sonic is top of the list on the next one.
well, that's fun.
Um,
That's fun.
or
Let's
well,
let's let's
given
do that for a minute. Let's cut this list in half. And if you were going to cut the list in half, come up with your top. Looks like it would be 8.
eight. All right, we're going Zelda,
Okay.
Mario Brothers,
Yep.
Pong,
Okay.
Tetris,
Yep.
Pac-Man, Oregon Trail. How many is that?
That's 6. You got 2 more.
Six. Okay. World of Warcraft
Okay.
and Space Invaders, actually.
Okay.
I said already.
Yeah, I looking it over. I think we're on the same page there. I might swap out Space Invaders for Pac-Man, and I might swap out World of Warcraft for Doom. But other than that,
I
I think we're on the
swap
same
out.
page.
I can
Yeah.
see arguments for both of those. In fact, as
Yeah.
I was going through it, I was like, Space Invaders or Doom. Ultimately, I went Space Invaders
Yeah.
for the sake of nostalgic value. However,
Sure.
Doom in and of itself
I
was
mean, when you're
a more
talking
iconic game.
yeah, when you're talking cultural phenomenon, Space Invaders, it would be hard to say off the top of my head without any actual numbers or research, which was bigger, Pac-Man or Space Invaders. But my gut tells me Space Invaders. But I
Mm,
like Pac-Man. What can I say?
yeah.
Um, all right, so yeah, and well, to do prove exactly what I was saying earlier, these lists are designed to engender discussion and engagement, and whether or not it's meaningful engagement, I don't know. I mean, I had fun arguing, but I'm just that type of person.
Yeah,
So,
you had some that straight up leveled my argument with the Angry Birds.
well,
I'm like, wait, no, you're not supposed to. You're
yeah.
supposed to be angry with me. Um, and that didn't play out at all.
No, your final point though, your final point that it's still too new to be on a first ballot. I agree with that. I definitely would agree with that. Yeah. But that argument relies on this Hall of Fame actually being worthwhile, which
Mm.
I I mean, I don't want to say too much bad about it because
I
it's still good work to have a video game dedicated to video game history and museum or I'm sorry, a museum dedicated to video game history, and museums need all the help they can get with publicity. There's no
I
question
agree.
about that. So, my personal distaste aside, kudos to them for doing this, and hopefully it pans out for them, and they can continue to do the good work of preserving video game history and video game culture.
Agreed.
All right. Well, let's move into the rundown, right? So we're gonna wrap things
Uh,
up here and just talk about a quick rapid fire list of things that showed up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/manabiscuit. So take it away, Jay.
Dragon Age Inquisition the free DLC comes out tomorrow. Are you playing?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the show might not get posted. I mean, I hear you could play as I hear you play as Isabella the pirate and Zither the April Fool's bard. Why wouldn't I? So Jay, today is Star Wars Day. I believe that's like May the 4th. Be with you on May the 4th. Did I do that right?
If you're Yoda.
If I'm Yoda.
All right, Final Fantasy 15 responds to the criticism. Are you buying it?
Well, I'm buying that. I think the it's hard to say what Japanese people consider the difference between cute and overly sexualized is. I mean, I'll say that much. But Game of Thrones, this season of Game of Thrones is seriously off book. Is that all good with you, Jay?
All good with me. Martin is on board with all of it, and so am I.
Fair enough.
Project 99 is officially recognized by Daybreak. What do you got to say about that?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's brilliant that they would recognize a fan private server like this, and I can never go back because I have to be honest with myself about my addiction. Jay, I have one last question for you. Konami, is it dead?
No.
All right. Fair enough. All right, well, that will be it for this week's Mana Biscuit. I want to thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show, please visit us on Facebook.com/ManaBiscuitTV and follow us on Twitter at ManaBiscuitTV. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us for live streams on Twitch.tv/ManaBiscuit, and your support means a lot to us. It really does. So for Jacob Gamble, I'm RJ Volosky. Say bye-bye to the people, Jacob.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.